Taurus, he woke up different today. You know when you notice something has changed in someone's gaze? Well, that's it. He finally understood. And the worst part is that it was too late. While you were here, rebuilding your life piece by piece, learning to exist without depending on his presence, without waiting for the message that never came, without feeding the hope that only hurt you. He was there, living as if he had all the time in the world, as if you were going to wait forever, as if there were no consequences for ignoring something rare, something real, something that most people spend their whole lives searching for and never find. But life doesn't work that way. And he discovered this in the worst possible way. You know how? He felt your absence. Not the physical absence, because physically you had already been away for a while, but that energetic absence, you know? When you finally stop sending that invisible energy to someone. When you stop thinking about him at 3 in the morning. When you stop checking if he's seen your stories. When you simply let go. And he felt it. He felt as if someone had turned off a light that had always been on just for him, even without him realizing it. And now he's panicking, that kind of silent panic that eats you up inside, because he looks at his life and sees the emptiness your absence left behind. Not the emptiness he expected, that dramatic, obvious one that hurts immediately. But the deep emptiness, the kind you only realize when it's too late, the kind that makes you wake up and think, I had everything and I let it slip away. You want to know the raw truth? He's scared he'll never find what he had with you again. Because he searched, he tried to replace it, he tried to find in other people that connection, that peace, that sense of home that you offered without even realizing it. And he didn't find it, and now he knows he won't find it. But here's what you need to understand before you continue listening to this. This message isn't about him, it's about you, about what you did with the pain, about how you transformed abandonment into rebirth. Because Taurus, you didn't just survive his departure, you flourished in his absence. And that's powerful, that's rare. That's the kind of transformation that makes the entire universe stop and take notice. Let me tell you what really happened. While he was there, comfortable with the idea that you would always be available, you did something he never imagined you would do. You chose yourself. For the first time in a long time, you looked in the mirror and decided you deserved more than crumbs of attention, more than empty promises, more than love conditioned on his mood, his availability, his convenience. And that decision, Taurus, that silent decision you made sometime in the last few months, it changed everything. And you know what's most impressive? You didn't do it to provoke him. You didn't do it so he would miss you. It wasn't a strategy, it was survival. It was you finally understanding that self-love isn't selfishness. It's a necessity. It's the least you owe yourself after so long giving yourself to someone who didn't know how to value you. And it's precisely this authenticity, this genuine change that he now perceives, because he recognizes lies and games from afar. But real transformation that he can't ignore. So now comes the hard part, the part you weren't expecting. He's coming back, or he's already back, or he's about to come back. And when that happens, it will be different than before. He won't arrive with the same arrogance, with the same certainty that you'll open the door smiling as if nothing happened. He'll arrive broken, humble, with the right words you've waited so long for, with the vulnerability you begged to see, with promises that will ring true because, this time, they are. And then, Taurus, that's when the real test comes. What do you do when you finally get what you've always wanted, but you're no longer the one who needed it? Because here's the truth, no one prepares you for. You've changed. And it wasn't a superficial change. It wasn't changing your haircut or going out more with friends. It was a structural, profound, irreversible change. You learned to sleep alone without feeling that emptiness in your chest. You learned to make decisions without needing his validation. You learned that your happiness doesn't depend on receiving that good morning message. You became whole. And now, the question you need to answer is there still room for him in this new version of you? And look, I know it hurts to think about it, because part of you still wants it. You still remember what you had. You still feel that connection. But there's another part, a wiser, stronger part, that knows that going back isn't always the answer, that knows that some people are there to show you who you don't want to be, not to build a life together. That knows that sometimes the greatest act of self-love isn't forgiving and going back, but being grateful for the lesson and moving on. But I'm not going to tell you what to do. This isn't about right or wrong. It's about you looking inside and asking, who do I want to be? Do I want to be the person who comes back because they still believe, or the person who moves on because they've discovered they don't need to anymore? Both choices are valid. Both have consequences. And only you know which one brings you peace when you look in the mirror. Now let me reveal something that will affect you. When he realized what he had lost, it wasn't because of anything you did. It wasn't because you posted happy photos. It wasn't because you found someone new. It was because he finally stopped running, stopped distracting himself, stopped avoiding feeling. And in the silence, in the emptiness, in the solitude he himself created, he saw you. He truly saw you. He saw everything you were, everything you offered, everything he ignored, and that destroyed him inside in a way that nothing else could. There's a specific kind of pain in realizing you had the right person, but you weren't ready. That love was there, freely, without demands, without conditions, and you simply didn't know how to honor it. He's feeling that now, and it's a pain that doesn't go away with distraction, that doesn't heal with time, that only gets worse the more he understands the magnitude of what he lost. Because he lost you, Taurus, and you're not just anyone, you're rare. You're one of those who, when you love, you truly love. Who, when you give yourself completely. Who, when you choose someone, choose to build with, not to play games with. And you know what else? He talked to other people. He tried to find someone who had that calmness that you have, that depth, that way of loving that doesn't demand but offers. And he didn't find anyone. They all seemed shallow compared to you. They all seemed temporary. Because you, Taurus, you are permanence. You are roots. You are foundation. And why did he trade that for freedom? Because he wasn't ready, for fear of commitment. Now he has all the freedom in the world, and he feels trapped in his own solitude. But here comes the part you need to process slowly. His regret owes you nothing. It doesn't erase the pain you felt. It doesn't undo the nights you cried alone, wondering what was wrong with you. It doesn't undo the months you spent rebuilding yourself from scratch. His regret belongs to him. It's his karma. It's the lesson he needed to learn. And you don't need to save him from it. You don't need to be generous again just because now he understands. You've already been too generous. You've already given too much. You've already waited too long. So when he arrives with elaborate excuses, promises of change and real tears, you don't need to decide anything on the spot. You owe him nothing, not an immediate answer, not a second chance, not instant forgiveness. What you owe is yourself. You owe yourself the time to process, the space to feel without pressure, the freedom to choose without guilt. Because for the first time, Taurus, you're in control. You have the power, and that scares him as much as it empowers you. And there's something else. If you decide to give it another chance, it needs to be for the right reasons. It can't be because you feel guilty. It can't be because he's suffering and you can't bear to see it. It can't be because you're afraid of being alone. It can't be because it was so good at the beginning. It has to be because you truly, with complete clarity, believe it's possible to build something new, not to recapture what was, but to create something totally different. Because you two are different people now. He's broken by regret. You're strengthened by overcoming it. What if it works? What if it really works this time? You'll have to truly forgive, not that superficial forgiveness where you say you've forgiven, but hold a grudge, real forgiveness, the kind that sets you free, the kind that doesn't throw things in your face, the kind that doesn't use the past as a weapon. And that, Taurus, is one of the hardest emotional tasks there is, because forgiving someone who hurt you isn't about them deserving it. It's about you no longer wanting to carry that weight. It's about you choosing peace over justice, and only you know if you have that within you right now. But what if you decide not to go back? What if you look at him with all the compassion in the world, but know deep down that that chapter is over? Then, Taurus, then you'll need a different kind of courage. The courage to say no, even when everything inside you wants to say yes. The courage to close a door knowing it will never open again. The courage to choose the unknown over the familiar, however painful the familiar may have been. Because familiar is comfortable, familiar is predictable, but familiar is also limiting when you've grown beyond that size. Let me ask you some direct questions now. Do you trust that he has truly changed, or is he just desperate because he lost you? Do you want him, or do you want the version of him that you've created in your head? Are you willing to risk all the peace you've achieved? Can you look ahead and see a happy life with him, or can you only see more of the same? These answers don't need to come now, but they need to, because decisions like these can't be made with a panicked heart. They need to come from that place of clarity, that calm place you found when you learned to live without him. And you know what's craziest about all this? You don't need him to be happy. You've already proven that. Lately, you've built a life that works without him. You woke up, worked, laughed, cried, dreamed, all without him. And you survived. More than that, you thrived. So if he comes back now, it can't be as a savior. It can't be as the missing piece. It has to be as an addition, as a bonus, as someone who adds to your life, not someone who completes it, because you are already complete. And anyone who enters your life now needs to respect that. And there's something about him realizing it too late. It says more about him than about you. It says he didn't know how to recognize value when he had it. It says he needed to lose something to learn to appreciate it. It says he's one of those people who only values something when it hurts. And you, Taurus, you deserve someone who values you when things are good, someone who doesn't need loss to realize how lucky they are, someone who chooses you every day, not just when they realize they might lose you. So the question isn't whether he finally woke up. The question is, are you willing to accept someone who needed so much time and so much of your pain to wake up? Look, some people will tell you that you should give it another chance, that everyone deserves forgiveness, that true love overcomes everything. And some people will tell you that you should move on, that whoever left you once can leave you again, that you deserve someone who never made you doubt your worth. And you know what? Both sides are right and wrong at the same time, because there's no formula, there's no universal answer. There's only you, your scars, your hopes, and a decision that only you can make. But I'll give you a tip. Observe the actions, not the words. He may say he's changed. He may promise the moon. He may cry, he may beg, but what is he doing? Is he giving you space or pressuring you? Is he respecting your time, or does he want everything resolved quickly? Is he willing to prove it patiently, or does he want you to believe him just because he said so? Because real change takes time. It requires consistent effort. It's not a grand declaration one time. It's small choices every day showing that this time it's different. And there's another crucial detail. Ask yourself, what has changed in him besides him losing you? Because sometimes people don't change. They just get desperate. And in desperation, they promise anything. They do anything. But when the desperation passes, when the conquest happens, when everything returns to normal, the same flaws reappear. So you need to discern, has he changed or is he scared? Has he grown or is he just afraid of being alone? Now take a deep breath with me, because I'm going to tell you something important. No matter what you decide, to go back or move forward, You won't be betraying anyone. You won't be making a mistake. You won't be weak if you go back, nor cold if you refuse. You'll be being human, making an impossible decision with the information you have. And whatever comes next, you deal with it when it comes. But the decision itself, it doesn't define you. It doesn't diminish you. It doesn't make you less strong. You've already proven your strength. Now you're just choosing which path you want to take with that strength. And let me tell you what happens next, whatever your choice. If you go back and it works out, you'll have a beautiful story of overcoming challenges, of two imperfect people who made mistakes, learned from them, and found each other again, more mature. And that's beautiful. But if you go back and it doesn't work out, you'll have the peace of knowing you tried, that you didn't get stuck with that what if, that you gave it a chance and it simply wasn't meant to be, and that also liberates. And if you don't go back, you'll continue building this new life that has already begun. You'll find someone who values you from the start, or you'll continue discovering yourself alone, which is also revolutionary. There's no bad ending here. There are only different paths. But here's what you can't do. You can't stay stuck in this indecision forever. You can't stay in the maybe mindset, in the I'll wait and see mindset, in the I need more certainty mindset, because absolute certainty doesn't exist. It never will. At some point you'll have to jump to one side or the other, but you'll have to jump. And the scariest and most liberating thing about it is, whichever side you choose, you'll be okay, because you've already learned to get back up. You've already proven that you can transform pain into growth. So there's no wrong choice. There are only choices with different consequences. And you know what I think is going to happen? I think you already know the answer. Deep down, in that place that doesn't lie, you already know what you're going to do. You're just afraid to admit it. Afraid of disappointing someone. Afraid of regretting it. Afraid of the pain. But Taurus, you've already been through the worst pain. You've already survived the hardest part. Whatever comes next, you can handle it. You always have. You always will. And let me tell you a truth that will affect every cell in your body. While you were learning to live without him, while you were rebuilding yourself brick by brick, he was living a lie. He was pretending he was okay, posting smiling photos, going out with other people, doing everything to prove to the world and to himself that losing you didn't hurt. But it did. It hurt in a way he never imagined it would, because he thought you were replaceable, that he could find love like that anywhere, that you were just one option among many. And then he went out looking. He looked at parties, on dating apps, at friends' introductions. He met beautiful people, interesting people, available people. And you know what happened? Nothing. No conversation had the depth you two had. No silence was as comfortable as it was with you. No touch had that I'm home feeling. And the more he searched, the more he understood that the problem wasn't finding someone. The problem was that he wanted to find you, again, from scratch, as if he could erase everything and start over. But life doesn't have control plus Z. There's no going back without bearing the consequences. And there's a cruel detail in all of this, Taurus. While he's suffering now for what he did, you've already suffered all of this before. You've already gone through sleepless nights. You've already gone through days where breathing hurt. You've already gone through the phase of wondering what you did wrong. You've already been through hell, and you know what that means, that you're on the other side now, healed, whole, while he's only beginning to feel the weight of his own stupidity. And it's not your job to guide him through this hell. You're not his therapist. You're not responsible for transforming his regret into redemption. You've already done your part. You loved, you gave yourself, you waited. Now it's his turn to do his part, and his part is to live with the choices he made. But here's something no one tells you about this moment. You have every right to feel pleasure in this reversal, not the petty pleasure of revenge, but the righteous pleasure of seeing that you weren't crazy, that the love you felt was real, that you weren't exaggerating when you said you had something special. He confirmed all of that by returning, by realizing, by suffering, So if you feel a silent satisfaction because he finally understands what you always knew, that's okay. That doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. After so long doubting your own worth, it's liberating to have this confirmation. Use this not to feed your ego, but to validate your intuition. You always knew how to recognize what was real. And there's another layer to all of this that needs to be said. He didn't realize it on his own. Someone must have said something. He must have seen you happy in a way that bothered him. He must have heard from others how well you're doing. He must have noticed on social media, in stories, in comments, that your life went on beautifully, and went on without needing him. And that triggered something in him. Because a man like that only wakes up when he sees that you no longer need him, when he sees that you're no longer waiting, when he sees that you're no longer emotionally available. That's when he understands what he lost. Not when you're crying because you miss him, but when you're laughing despite his absence. And this tells you something important. If you come back, you can't come back as that version of yourself who waited, who accepted anything, who was content with the bare minimum. Because that's the version he lost respect for. That's the version he thought he could let go of. If you come back, and only if, you need to come back as this new version. The one that sets boundaries, the one that doesn't accept empty excuses, the one that isn't afraid to leave again if things don't truly change. Because respect isn't asked for, it's earned. And sometimes it needs to be asserted. Now I want you to think about something very specific. Can you imagine a life with him where you don't have a nagging feeling of unease, where you don't expect him to repeat the same pattern, where you don't analyze his every move, looking for signs that he's going to abandon you again? Because that's what happens when you come back after such a big break. Trust doesn't automatically return. It needs to be rebuilt, and rebuilding takes time. It takes patience. It takes him proving every day with concrete actions that he has changed. And you need to be honest. Do you have the patience for that? Are you willing to go through this rebuilding process? Or would you rather start from scratch with someone where trust already exists from the beginning? So here's my final call to you. Be honest, brutally honest, with yourself first, with him later. If you want to try again, really try. Without a plan B, without holding grudges. Try as if it were the first time, because emotionally it is. But if you don't want to, really don't want to, don't let guilt convince you. Don't let the pressure break you. Don't let the beautiful story you could have had stop you from living the beautiful story you can have alone or with someone else. And when he looks at you, waiting for an answer, when he's there vulnerable, broken, regretful, remember this: you don't need to carry his pain. You don't need to fix what he broke in himself by losing you. You're not responsible for his growth. You're responsible for yours. And if his growth happens alongside yours, great. But if not, you move on. Because you've already spent too much time pausing your life, waiting for someone to catch up. And now you're in motion. And anyone who wants to stay in your life needs to move too, at the same pace, in the same direction, or you leave them behind. He realized too late what he lost. That's a fact. But you also discovered something too late, that you never needed him to be extraordinary, that you were always enough, that his love was good, but it wasn't essential. And now that you know this, now that you've internalized it, nothing will ever be the same again. Not with him, not with anyone, because you found yourself in losing him. And those who find themselves in this way don't get lost again. So the last question that remains is, now that you have yourself completely, is there still room for him? Or have you already filled that space with something much greater, with yourself?